Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome to Naya Sim or Simnaya. And thank you all so much for all the love and support. Hope you all are doing great. So you all already know the controversy that has been going on, especially Kamala Harris. A lot of people are saying that how come Black people are supporting her and at the same time claiming her, right? And some people are also trying to prove to Black people that she does not have any Black descent or doesn't there is nothing connected to her and Black people. And a lot of from the research or analysis he made, he also talked about her name, how her name does not even come from Jamaica and a lot of things. And I see a lot of white people saying, how come this is not all over the internet? The people deserve to know the truth that she does not have any Black descent and all that. And some are also saying that I am a white person. My father was born in Jamaica. And does that make me Black and the rest of it? Some people also think that he is delusional and is sane for bringing all this up. A lot of people also made it known to him that in Jamaica that there are also so many mixed people there, and at the same time their names, like there are people that answer Spencer and some are something else that doesn't make them not Jamaican and all that. And the truth is that it is kind of really not so cool how everybody is questioning her where she is from, because I really do not see a reason why people should be questioning her. It's either you are ready to vote for her or you are not ready to vote for her. Let's get into this video.
It's Wednesday night and Kamala Harris is Black.
Well, is she really? Please recognize that the genealogy of Kamala Harris is very well documented. And that's because the vast majority of it is rich white slave owners. So when we trace the genealogy of her mother, Chayamala Gopalan, it very easily traces right back to India. When we trace the genealogy of her father, Donald J. Harris, that shit runs to Ireland, where we find her ancestor, Hamilton Brown. Now, contrary to the fact that his last name is Brown, he was white as shit. He was a white Irish slave owner born oddly enough in 1776. Now, when Brown became an adult, he emigrated to Jamaica, which at the time was a British colony. And it was there in Jamaica where Hamilton Brown became one of the most prolific slave owners in the New World. In fact, in 1832, he actively fought against the abolition of slavery across the British Empire and complained to the king that now he had to go back to Ireland and replace his slaves with regular Irish workers. This dude actually founded a town called Brownstown in Jamaica, where, by the way, he's currently buried in the church that he built with money he made from slaves. Now, during this time in Jamaica, not only did he fight against the abolition of slavery in the British Empire, but he also fought against the slave registry bill, which was pushed throughout the Caribbean. The goal of that bill to outlaw the trading of slaves. Hamilton Brown is actually quoted as saying that anyone who opposes slavery is a cloven-footed idiot. Now, after the British Empire was finally able to take away his slaves by compensating him millions of dollars in today's money, he simply took that money, went back to Ireland, and got himself some white slaves. And funnily enough, people just didn't acknowledge the fact that he was doing slavery, just with white people this time. But if we look at Harris's father and we just step back his heritage slowly, we don't find Black people. We just find white slave owner after white slave owner after white slave owner. And Kamala Harris's great-grandmother was a woman named Christina Brown, who owes her lands and houses to the money made by Hamilton Brown from slavery. But then Donald Harris's maternal grandmother is even funnier. Her name is Iris Finnegan. That real Jamaican name you got there. Look, if you want to say that Kamala Harris is Indian, that shit's an easy trace. I mean, her mother's name is Shyamala Gopalan, and it's directly from India. But her father is a lot more Irish than he is Black. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't mean she doesn't get to claim being Black. I'm just saying that if she claimed to be Irish, she'd be a lot more correct than when she claims to be Black. Her recent heritage might be from Jamaica. The vast majority of that heritage in Jamaica is white Irish slave owners. So look, I don't get to make a determination of whether or not she's Black, but honestly, she should be celebrating St. Patty's Day a lot harder than Juneteenth.
Wednesday night and Kamala Harris is Black.
Well, is she really? Please recognize that the genealogy of Kamala Harris is very well documented. That's because the vast majority of it is rich white slave owners.
Hey Tom, it's not well documented at all, actually. I did a bit of a deep dive on Kamala Harris's genealogy after watching this dumpster fire of a video of yours. In this video, Tom makes the claim that Kamala Harris might not actually be Black and is a secret white Irish lady based off the fact that her father, Donald J. Harris, is a descendant of a white slaveholder named Hamilton Brown. Now, the claim that Tom is making stems not from extensive genealogy records records showing dozens of white slaveholders in Kamala's family, but rather from a singular essay that her father wrote back in 2019. In this essay, he mentions just one person, Hamilton Brown, and how his grandmother, Christina Brown, told him that she was one of his descendants. And yes, since Tom is questioning Kamala Harris's blackness through this connection, he's making the insinuation that she is not really black because part of her family line descends from sexual violence, because that is how white slaveholders created black descendants. So I want to be clear, Tom, what you are saying is crazy. According to that essay, Christina Brown was born in 1881. However, Hamilton Brown was born in 1776, 105 years earlier, meaning at best he's her great-grandfather. Which means ultimately Tom's claim here is that Kamala Harris isn't really black because one of her father's 32 great-great-great-grandparents might be a white enslaver.
Donald Harris's maternal grandmother is even funnier. Her name is Iris Finnegan. A real Jamaican name he got there.
Quick question, buddy. What do you think a Jamaican name sounds like? Like, what does that sound like to you? The most famous Jamaican person is a man by the name of Robert Marley. I want you to listen to that for a second. Robert Marley. Does that sound like whatever you think a Jamaican name is supposed to sound like? Probably not. You know why? Because Marley is an English surname. Most common Jamaican surnames are Brown, Williams, Smith, and Campbell. People in Jamaica do not have Jamaican last names the same way most African Americans don't have African last names. They have the last names of the people that colonized and enslaved them. Oh, by the way, Iris Finnegan, this woman that he's insinuating is not Jamaican and is actually a white Irish lady, is this woman. By the way, it seems debated whether or not her birth name even was Iris Finnegan. A genealogist from Boston suggested that she might have actually been born Ora Allen, but then married a man by the name of Patrick Finnegan, the mixed-race son of a man from Ireland. Oh, and where was Miss Iris Finnegan born? Goddamn Jamaica. Meaning both sides of Donald J. Harris's family has been in Jamaica for at least 3 generations. Is that enough? After 3 generations, are you allowed to claim the nationality of the country that you're born in? Am I not allowed to call myself American because my dad wasn't born here? What are... I did a bit of a deep dive on Kamala Harris's genealogy after watching this dumpster fire of a video.
I actually love that this conversation is happening. I love that it's happening because I feel like there is a group of white people, and I'm speaking about the video that Wh0 is stitching. There's a group of white people that have really never been forced to reckon with Black identity and with white America's impact on Black identity, racial identity. And it's so interesting when this ridiculous conversation around whether Kamala Harris is really Black and is she Black enough and all of this stuff, when this conversation first started to come to the fore because of some really ridiculous, insensitive comments that Trump made, I did a video about this and I pointed out the fact that Kamala Harris and most Black people in the Americas would have some element of European ancestry because of sexual violence. A fact that I assumed that we all knew and took for granted. But I don't think a lot of white people have really taken the time to meditate on that. And I'm not just talking about old racist white people. I'm talking about white people in general. I don't think it really occurs to them. And it's so interesting that so many white people, I mean, they love to break down their racial and ethnic heritage into tenths and quarters. And I'm a quarter Irish and a quarter Spanish. And then my great-grandmother was from France and all. Black people don't really have those kinds of narratives and those kinds of experiences with their cultures of origin. We don't have that. We were cut off from that a long time ago. First of all, a lot of our ancestors came here as early as the Mayflower. Okay, so we wouldn't necessarily have a very deep connection to exactly where we come from. But then really it's only been in the age of genealogy testing or actual genetic testing that we would have been able to determine all of the different things that make up our racial or ethnic identity. We wouldn't have even known until recently to go back and say, well, I'm a quarter this or a tenth that. And those questions really aren't asked because of the history that we know exists in this country, at least, around the one-drop rule and around slavery and all of that. It really was not a question. It really has not been a question in most white folks' minds what our genetic makeup even is. This is not a conversation that typically happens with white people. And I know this because I know a lot of white people. And they are not having these conversations about us. Now, the furthest I would say that this goes in our community, amongst Black folks, is we do have a lot of exoticism around the idea of having Native ancestry. We would much rather claim, a lot of Black folks would much rather claim Native ancestry than to say that any part of them is from Europe for obvious reasons. And so we're having to deal with a lot of that stuff internally, at least, now that 23andMe and Ancestry.com are kind of revealing the truth to us about where we come from genetically. So this is a conversation that is kind of new. And it's a conversation that white people very much need to be brought into, because a lot of them, young and old, have never really been forced to grapple with the identities that Black people possess in terms of their genetic makeup. And it's just kind of funny to observe how historically genetics can be used to manipulate certain realities where white folks are concerned. If there is a conversation around race or racism or, who's responsible for slavery and all this stuff, they can immediately go to the history and say, well, I didn't have any ancestors who were here during slavery. Or they can say, well, my grandfather was Creek. And so, can you really call me white? It often is used as a shield on their parts, while never really acknowledging that Black people, I would say 99% of us in the Americas, possess mixed ancestry. But it doesn't matter where we're concerned. It doesn't matter where we're concerned. But for a lot of white folks, it very much matters where they're concerned. So am I glad that Kamala Harris's racial identity is being made a front burner issue by people who historically would have very much adhered to the one drop rule? No, that is not a relevant conversation in terms of her fitness for the office of president. Not at all. Am I glad that some of those same people are now having to confront the history of sexual violence by their ancestors? Yeah, I am. And those same people are having to also confront the absurdity of race and what that means to us. I mean, pretending not to understand what it means to come from mixed racial heritage. She's not Black enough to say that she is the first Black female nominee of a major party, but then also all of these white ancestors that this dude is referring to. I mean, what does that all mean in the grand scheme of things? She had ancestors that were Irish slaveholders. Okay, so now what? You gonna stop treating her like a Black woman? No, I don't think you are, actually. It's a point I'm sure will be lost on most of them, but I hope that maybe it just creates a little bit of a wrinkle in their brain that just won't leave them alone, and that maybe causes them to contemplate race just a little more deeply.
There's a term you may not have heard of that describes something that I've suspected has been going on for a while now. It's called racism laundering. It describes a practice that happens quite often, both in online spaces and IRL. The idea is you get a Black or brown person to peddle your white supremacist talking points as their own and thus use their race as a cleansing agent of sorts to help you avoid any accusations of racism. It's essentially blackfishing with consent. This can happen in a couple of ways. It can be self-directed. A Black or brown person who sincerely subscribes to conservative ideals can be targeted by right-wing media outlets or political organizations to become a mouthpiece for their white supremacist views. These ultra-right-wing outlets will incentivize a person of color to spew racist ideals in service of their agenda. Or it can happen in a more surreptitious way. A scandal at a popular UK paper, the Daily Mail, has exposed an even more sinister form of this practice. Conservative writer Dominique Samuels recently outed the paper for offering to pay her for a, quote, ghost-written, negative, verging on racist piece, which she turned down because it apparently went a bit too far this time. When a commenter asked her about whether another piece that she had supposedly written that attempted to downplay racism against Meghan Markle was also ghost-written, she simply responded, Yeah, it was. Commenters who are familiar with the Daily Mail's content immediately started to question how far-reaching the practice was, considering that the Daily Mail regularly publishes content by several black conservative writers. This racism laundering seems to play into a larger phenomenon of influence peddling that seems to be much more common than it used to be. The practice of black and brown talking heads, commentators, politicians, and operatives essentially selling their minority status to the highest bidder. I'm sure they see it as a winning strategy. You announce yourself as being amenable to discussing issues from a decidedly conservative, even borderline racist point of view, and you instantly become a hot commodity to the right. They're always in need of black and brown voices to communicate messaging that might come off as racist if it were known to be coming from a white person. And there's the added benefit of pulling more black and brown people into the fold by showing them someone who looks like them, who thumbs their nose in the face of the liberal left. They now get to be the mavericks, the elite, the chosen few who really get it. Racism laundering may not always happen as blatantly as it did with the Daily Mail, but the practice is alive and well. Once you're aware of it, you'll start to recognize the earmarks of it, and hopefully you'll begin to question some of the messaging coming from black and brown people that's meant to normalize white supremacy. Hey DC, I can't wait to see you on the 15th of October. Check the ticket link in the description of this video or in my bio for details.
So this is all I got from this video. I saw this video and I saw Dara Starstrucker, I guess that's her name, that black beautiful woman. I like her content. She does great content. And I decided to check it out, and I saw where this older millennial is out there debating if Kamala Harris is a black or white or Indian and all that. And from the comment that I went through the comment to see what people were saying and all of that. And a lot of people were asking him a lot of questions. Now, I am going to ask him this. Why is it that all of a sudden everybody is like so much interested in knowing where she is from, right? Like knowing if she's a black, if she's of black descent or Indian and all of that. And from the the research I was able to gather, I found out that 90% of Jamaican or mix, that about 90% of Jamaican are kind of mixed, right? And that also doesn't mean that they are not black or they are not Jamaican. They are also Jamaican, right? And I really don't understand why it is kind of very hard for people to understand that you can at the same time, probably have parents from different ethnicity or different race and all of that, and still maintain both races. You could be black and any other whatever. But her own has really a lot of people have a lot of things to say about where she is coming from. I don't know if it is because that all of a sudden, to them, it is all of a sudden from vice president, she is now coming up for going to be she is already the presidential candidate, right, for Republican. So it's kind of making them very making them uncomfortable. And I see a lot of white people telling the man that he is doing great and telling him that why is it that, this news is not all over the internet. And I am asking, what do they expect? How do they want it to be all over the internet? What is like there that she has a Jamaican father or something? And I really don't get them because it kind of, it's in kind of turning to social media banter and all that. And a lot of people are saying if she is of this black descent, how come her name doesn't sound anything black and all that? But then from tracing back to the father's side and all that, you can find out that their names, according to what Jamaican said, their names are not the typical kind of name. Somebody can also be Spencer and also a Jamaican, right? So I don't think there is anything wrong with the name. It's just that a lot of people are kind of finding it hard, and at the same time creating problem when there is no problem, because that is what I feel. I feel like a lot of people are kind of trying to create problem where there is no problem, and most especially people that are like this. So I really don't understand why this is where somebody is from is becoming a problem. Now I understand that I mean, like, the whole election thing is kind of making everybody stressed out and all that, but excuse me, it is either you are for this person or you are for the other person. Enough of all this going around and all that, because I feel like anybody that can defend the fact that Donald Trump has felonies can at the same time raise up anything against the other party and all that. So, I mean, it's really kind of crazy, but it is what it is. And I saw a lot of what is it called, white people in the comment section saying that that they have black. I have a question that they were like, my father was born in Jamaica and his siblings were older and they were also born in Jamaica. Does that also make them black? I mean, it's really crazy how white people come out on the internet to ask some crazy question. And I mean, somebody already told you people where she's from. Why are you people doubting her? I mean, if you do not want to believe, okay, clear the road. For those that want to believe, that it's fine. Enough of coming online to, like, it's kind of becoming tiring, and it's I feel like it's only a rare disease that will do something like this, and you all can do better. And that's all I got to say. Let me know what you all think in the comment section. I see you all in my next video. Bye for now.